One of the things that I've learned over the last 40, 50 years of running combines is the fact that a well-balanced combine has the same amount of loss out of the rotor as it does over the sieve, and that way it tells me I'm maximizing my separating capacity through the rotor area, and I'm maximizing my separating capacity through the sieve area. What normally happens with rotary combines is we're either overloading one chamber or the other. Normally in corn, we've got too much of the corn in the concave area, and we just can't get it out quick enough. And what happens is the opposite in soybeans, is the material drops down too quickly onto the auger bed, and that's why we end up with pods in the grain bank. So today I've been working on setting the machine, and the way that I monitor that is just simply to look at the grain loss monitor, and I'm able to click back and forth between the rotor and the chaffer all day long. So right now we're monitoring the chaffer. If you want to look over here, the rotor, we're going to see if this needle changes very much now. It's going to take it a little bit of time. And now we're looking at the amount of rotor loss. We're getting just a little bit more rotor loss, but not very much. Still, both of it pretty acceptable right in the green area. So now what we're going to do is a kill stop here, and then we're going to get out and take a look at what's on the inside of the combine. So we're running not quite 5 miles an hour here, 200 bushel corn at about 20%. We're simply going to reach over, grab the throttle, and yank it back. And this is what we call a rolling kill stop. Shut everything off, restart the combine so that it has a chance to cool down. Hi, my name is Marion, and I'm a 4th generation farmer from Western Illinois. And I'm also the founder and the owner and CEO of Calmer Cornheads. Today's Marion Minute is on choosing the correct threshing concave and also the correct separating grate for harvesting corn. In my humble opinion, a well-balanced combine, whether it's red, green, yellow, or gray, is going to have the same amount of rotor loss as it does sieve loss. That means I'm maximizing my separating capacity out of the rotor, and I'm maximizing the separating capacity out of the sieves. And the way that I do that is watch the grain loss monitor. We got a meter in there, and so I'm clicking back and forth all day long to see how much rotor loss I'm getting in comparison to how much sieve loss that I'm getting. On this particular machine, I have owned it now for 22 years. It's 25 years old, and I've been tweaking it every season to make it work a little bit better. I know from past experience that when I'm harvesting corn, I have to rotate the transport vanes back into the retarded position to hold the corn in the chamber long enough to get the kernels to drop out. That shuts down a lot of rotor loss on this particular machine. When I'm in soybeans, I go the other way. The other thing that I've learned in high yielding corn, and I've read this in the owner's manual, that we go from 4 to 8 separator bars in the separating area of the rotor, and that also reduces rotor loss at the same time. We all know that the rotor is divided into basically 2 sections. From the firewall forward is the threshing area, and from the firewall backwards is the separating area. So in the threshing area, this combine came from the factory and still today uses a large wire concave. And I'm happy with it. And we just did a kill stop here in the field. We've yanked these concaves out here to take a look at them, and it's doing a really nice job for me. So I'm getting 95% thresh by the time I get to the firewall, and I'm rubbing ears against ears, and they're coming off, and the kernels are falling through and down on into the auger bed. And you can see the material that we pulled out of the threshing area, and you can see there's just small leaves, there's whole kernels, but no cobs. So now let's move on back into the separating area. From the factory, this combine came out with a 3/8 square bar separating grate. Every time that I would do a kill stop, one of the problems and one of the things that I noticed that I was unhappy about was the fact that I would see corn cobs laying down below these concaves. And if you look at this, the holes are open far enough that the corn cobs will drop right through. My common sense tells me that's not good. I want to keep the whole cobs in the upper area of this combine going on out the back. Number two, if I get a cob in here, I've got a chance to break it. And I don't need broken cobs falling down onto the auger bud and eventually onto the top sieve. So I took my owner's manual, and I've had this for 22 years, pretty well beaten up, but sure enough, on page 144, it talks about different choices of grates that you can use in the separating area. They have the slotted grate, and they have the 3/8 square bar separating grate. And so common sense told me that if I would switch over to the slotted grate, it's smaller, and what do you know, it doesn't allow corn cobs to drop down through and fall into the sieve area. So we switched this out this fall. We've been running here the last couple of days, and I can honestly tell you, this was a fantastic improvement to this machine. So I've been running 22 years with the wrong separating grate in this combine, and I now have the correct one. And coming up next week, we're going to shoot a video in soybeans, and I think this is going to be tremendous in soybeans because I was overloading the top sieve. And that's one of the problems with having a separating grate that is too large and too open, because it allows too much material and then it overloads the top sieve. So here's the material that we got in the threshing area. Here we did a kill stop, we opened up the combine, and you can see nothing but kernels and a few broken leaves. That's what I'm looking for. Now underneath the slotted concave, we're starting to drop a little more material through, so I'm starting to get a little bit more straw, a little bit longer pieces, but the important thing is there's no cobs. And I just don't see any sense at all of letting the cobs drop out of the rotor area onto the top sieve. So that's been my big improvement for this year. I took out the square bar and I went to a slotted separating grate, and it's huge in my opinion. And the performance of this machine now is very easy to set. So for rotor speed, I think it's closely related to cracks. So I'm going to speed up the rotor until I see some cracks and slow it down. The other thing I do for setting rotor speed is I'm looking, when I'm dumping on the go, I'm looking at the rubber flap, the rubber chute that's on the unloading auger, and I'm looking for that small stream of cornmeal or ground up fines. And if I don't see any, I know I'm doing a good job. If I see a stream of fines coming down, then I know that I'm grinding or milling the corn just a little bit. So that's how I set my rotor speed. Concave clearance, very easy. I'm going to open up the concave, and still I start to see a few kernels left on the cob. And I think I'm okay with it if I see one kernel every 10 steps on the cob. The worst thing I can do is over thresh the cob. And also I'm going to look at the grain loss monitor on the rotor. If I'm starting to see some rotor loss, I'll close that concave back up a little bit. That way I'm going to thresh a little earlier, give me a little better chance to get those kernels off the cob before they go out the back. As far as setting the bottom sieve, when I was 20 years old, my case dealer taught me to run the bottom sieve wide open and clean the grain tank with the top sieve. He is exactly right. I've been doing that for over 40 years. There is absolutely no sense to close the bottom sieve and rethresh a broken cob. Because if you rethresh the broken cob, it's going to be smaller and the thing's going to end up in the grain tank regardless. So I don't have any reason to let any broken cobs drop onto the top sieve. I don't have any reason to let them drop below the top sieve because there's nothing to re-thresh. So when I come to set the top sieve, I have a pretty simple gauge. It's a piece of 3/8 all thread and maybe 5/16 for dry corn, 3/8 for wet corn. And I just set it in here between the louvers and slide it back and forth. And I can, with this long rod, I can reach it from the back end of the combine. And I want the front, the middle, and the back to all have the same gap, because the size of the broken cob doesn't change from the front to the middle to the back. Handy little gauge, 3/8, and I get along just fine. I'm in 22% moisture corn here today, and I got a great sample up there in the tank. So last but not least is setting the fan. The fan, in my opinion's purpose, is to take small leaves out, because I can't take them out with the sieve, I can't take them out with the rotor. The only way I can get rid of these is in the airstream. So if I'm seeing small leaves in the grain tank, I'm going to speed up the fan. If I don't have any small leaves, I'm going to slow it down. So basically, that's it from start to finish on setting my red combine. I think a lot of these principles are going to apply, whether it's red, green, yellow, or gray. As always, if you're interested in more information, more videos, please visit my website, calmercornheads.com. If you're interested in upgrading your cornhead and you would like to be able to turn your corn stalks into confetti, we can do that for you. So give us a holler if you want to upgrade your cornhead. Last but not least, as always, feel free to call me on my cell phone, 309-368-1182. Take a picture. Send me a picture. Send me a text message. I get them all day long. Be happy to help you try to set your combine regardless of color. With that, I want to say thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule to watch this video. I hope you found it as value. Give me a holler if you need to. But with that, I hope you have a safe, a profitable, and a fun harvest this year.